Hey sis, how are you this evening? Thank you so much for coming to join me for Wealthy Women. And tonight we're talking about love and money. So, this is a hot topic for us. I am Kivette Minor Kane, your financial liberation expert with Mari Moore Life LLC. And this topic is so significant because it absolutely affects our emotions, our love relationships, how we manage our money. Our emotions are all over this topic here. And so we're going to talk about why women give up their financial power in a love relationship or in marriage, and how we can prevent ourselves from doing that by maintaining our financial power in order to empower not only ourselves, but even to find strength in our relationship and to provide us strength in our relationship. And so to do that, we're going to bring in Tomina Ward, who is my special guest for the evening. She is an amazing women's empowerment and communications coach. And just so you know a little bit about her, she went from master sergeant to master speaker. As a 20-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps, she traveled and spoke all over the world. Fighting for our freedom will always have a special place in her heart, and it's her purpose and it leaves her fulfilled every day. So in the Marine Corps, she had a special opportunity to train students to do her job as a career counselor. And one of the toughest Marine Corps schools where she was teaching was the recruiters school. So she's continued to develop herself as a speaking guru, as a master speaker, and she enjoys teaching entrepreneurs, speakers, and coaches about how to scale their business through lead generation, conversion, and customer retention. So for those of you ladies who are business owners, she's going to have a special treat for you at the end of the show. So stay tuned and listen up to what she's got to say in terms of helping us to get the advice that we need and to make sure that we're able to make good decisions about our love and money moving forward. So I'm going to bring in Tomina Ward. Hello, Tomina. How are you this evening?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you this evening.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming to join us and to share your amazing knowledge and insight on this topic, love and money. And, it's so timely, I believe, because we're going to be celebrating Juneteenth coming up this weekend, a time of really understanding freedom in the Black community, recognizing also how there has been some disadvantage in the fact of, not knowing to an extent that there was this freedom that existed and continuing to be taken advantage of, in that process. And so there are many women who are in abusive situations where they don't realize that there are certain freedoms that they have and that they need to take advantage of in order to free themselves from that bondage and to free themselves from, that harmful situation, both themselves and their children. And so we want to talk about, how detrimental as it is for them to give up their financial power, but then also how hopeful they can be and how empowering it is for them to regain their control over their finances, to be able to make decisions not only for themselves but also for their families and especially for their children, leaving a legacy going forward.
Absolutely. Yes. So very important. And I love the way that you talk about being free, mentally free, and giving up that power as women. We have to ensure that we hold on to our power. It's our superpower, to be able to understand how important not only it is for us, but for generations, because we are responsible for teaching and, influencing those around us and also our children that we're raising is vital. Yes.
Absolutely. So how did you get started in your empowerment coaching, Tomina?
And you mentioned it before. Thank you for introducing me. So I spent the last 20 years in the Marine Corps in one of the toughest branches of service, that's out there. And kind of have a little friendly banter back and forth with the other branches. Everyone thinks that they're the best. But in reality, the Marine Corps definitely is a little tougher. And especially when we're talking about females, there's a lot that we have to constantly prove. So I did, my time. Like I said, my job was a career counselor. So I would teach and train and mentor people on the importance of, making decisions when it comes to being qualified and competitive for their career. But I noticed that as I was doing that, as I was counseling these Marines, I was helping, and I saw the change that was happening on the inside of them. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was, not only helping their career, but it was also helping their family life. So I was like, you know what, this is my purpose. I hear you calling me, God. I hear you tugging on my heart that
Absolutely.
helping people, delivering people, inspiring people is my purpose. And that is why I continue to do what I do today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So now you personally are married
I'm
and you've
married.
had a nice, amazing, long, nice long marriage. So congratulations for that. And but I bring that up because it's very important that we're able to see. What I try to do is show both sides of the coin, whatever conversation we have. I want to show both sides of the discussion because there are women who have been on both sides, and there's women obviously who are on one side or the other presently. Whether they're married and working on continuing to grow a strong, healthy marriage, or
Right.
if they're divorced and they are working on rebuilding themselves financially, and establishing, even rediscovering who they are as an individual, whether they're coming out of an abusive marriage or if it just didn't work out because, it just didn't work out. Sometimes it happens,
Yeah.
and it doesn't always have to be abuse and trauma, that goes along with it. It can be devastating. Obviously, no one gets married to get divorced. But we want to make sure that we are keeping ourselves intact, both where our emotions are concerned as well as where our money is concerned. So that's one of the things that I love about your handle here, Black Therapy Love. So
Yeah.
you've got a really strong handle there, on recognizing that there is something that we need in seeking therapy. And how is that something that you came to promote as a coach and as a therapist?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just a coach, not a therapist.
Okay. Okay.
I do, I have family history. I have
Mm-hmm.
family members with anxiety, family members with depression. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and what I noticed growing up is that no one, and I mean absolutely no one, had
Mm-hmm.
paid or had physically seen an actual therapist. We're so quick to tell, the pastor, and that's absolutely fine. We absolutely need Jesus. But there's memes even today that talks about how you can have Jesus and a therapist, and why
Right.
that's important. I mainly created the app in the community because I know that there are so many other people out there, like my family members. There's so many people out there like me. I struggle with anxiety. I have before, and knowing the more that we talk about it, like even you mentioned that part of your this show is therapeutic for you. We actually, this is a process. So the
Absolutely.
more that we're walking through our process, and the more that we understand what's happening during our process with our therapist, pointing things out, letting us know what's okay, letting us know different things to not hang on to, or to try a different method, whether it's journaling or something else that'll work specifically for you with your mental health.
Yeah.
I just understood how important that was, not only for me, but also for our community.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's an application that goes behind this. How can folks get a hold of that application? Is it located in both of the app stores, both on iOS and Google Play?
It's actually a shareable app, so it's not in the
Okay.
app store. So you
Okay.
can straight to black_therapy_love on Instagram, and the
Mm-hmm.
link is actually in the bio. So you
Oh,
click the link
nice.
and you download it directly to your desktop.
Okay.
And the thing that I like the most about it is that we actually have videos of the therapists, so you can hear their story. You can hear, their background. You can actually contact them through the app as well. And that's one thing that's a bit different than a regular directory. Regular directory, you'll see the picture, you'll see the information, but in
Mm-hmm.
our application, you'll actually hear from the therapist. So hoping that to make an emotional connection to where you
Mm-hmm.
reach out to that therapist and possibly use their services in the future.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that with our audience. So they'll know how to connect with you at Black_therapy_love on Instagram and be able to go to click that link in your bio so that they're able to download it for themselves and even share it with their friends and family to grow the community and to make sure that we're supporting ourselves where therapy is concerned. That's absolutely key for us. There are 5 areas of mindset that I talk about with my audience and my clients. And those include our mental mindset, our emotional mindset, our spiritual mindset, which you talked about, our physical mindset, as well as our financial mindset. It's making sure that we've got all 5 of those areas covered that really helps us to be whole.
Yes.
And we have to, absolutely. And so while we're going to make sure that we've got some spiritual grounding and, that we're remaining conscious on that level, we still do need to make sure that we're dealing with our mental and that we're, being conscious or aware of our thoughts and how our thoughts are affecting our emotions and our actions in life, because that's absolutely key.
It is.
And so that's one of the things, absolutely, that leads us into these relationships. So, we talk about, why women give up their power in a love relationship or a marriage. So often I hear women say, well, you don't have to talk to me about the money because my husband handles all that. And I kind of cringe when I hear that because I remember being that woman.
Right.
I remember being at a point where, where there wasn't anything for me to handle because he took control of the money and he handled that. And so I didn't, and I just kind of dismissed it because it was a challenging topic to discuss. And, there was some arguing that would come up around it. And I just, in order to keep the peace, just let it go.
Right.
But what I found is that was more detrimental for me, throughout the marriage and as well as when the marriage came to an end, because I am divorced.
Yes.
And so when we talk about that on both the side of women's empowerment and communication, what advice would you give to our audience, these ladies, who are either in marriages where that exists, or maybe they're unmarried and looking for a love relationship and thinking about, well, how do I handle this, going forward? How do I make that work, that conversation and that reality in their love relationships where money is concerned?
And that's an amazing question. And you're exactly right. I think a lot of women think like that.
Yeah.
You mentioned, the mindset and the financial mindset, but I think a lot of women allow that to happen because they don't realize that they have leaders inside of themselves. We're so used to allowing, and, that the title, our husband is the head of the household. Mm-hmm. So we allow society to place these roles in our lives, and we think that it's okay, and we just accept it. And like you mentioned in your situation, yeah, there was some conflict that would come off of those conversations if you attempted to interject or mention or something like that in your situation. But at times, we as women don't realize how strong we are. Mm-hmm. And how much of a leadership role that we are still responsible for in our marriage. Mm-hmm. It's easy for you to get comfortable in, I'm just a woman. I'm over here cooking. I'm over here cleaning. Absolutely not. You can cook. You can clean. Mm-hmm. Guess what, honey? You need to make sure that you're paying attention. It's like that 50-50. I believe in 50-50 relationship, help, support. With the finances, that's how you're able to keep a more balanced relationship. And by it being 50-50, you have to communicate. You have to talk about what you're feeling. It may not be, hey, honey, this is not fair. You know what? Can we sit down and talk about this? Instead of actually using our voice and actually using those words, we just let it sit by let it go by the wayside and just let it happen. Until eventually, years later, now we're looking at a situation where there's no control. Mm-hmm. I have a great example. Years ago, so in the Marine Corps, we do something called Toys for Tots, and every year they donate toys and money to lower advantaged families. And I happened to be walking a mother through the little warehouse. So when they get the toys, they'll set them up in a little warehouse, and they'll let family members walk through and pick out specific toys.
Mm-hmm.
So I happened to be walking a mother through, and she explained to me that, she didn't know what she was going to do, that her husband had just left her, that, she needed something for the kids for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And that she was a stay-at-home mom. She, no education, and she didn't have any money. She didn't pay attention to the finances.
Mm-hmm.
So she found herself in a situation that, now she was left with nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So by us not taking more of a leadership role, no one's saying you got to run all the finances and give me the checkbook and balance, but you have to pay attention.
Yeah, you don't have to be the head in order to be a part of the leadership, because you are. As a wife, there's a husband and wife work as a team.
Yes.
And oftentimes I think what women really don't recognize, and sometimes men fail to recognize as well, is that how much they would benefit having their wives supporting them in that role.
Yes.
Having their wives feeling empowered in that role, right. Because she is managing the household, and in many healthy marriages, they have that balance. They found that balance. They established that balance from the beginning and have maintained it throughout. And in some marriages where it hasn't existed initially, they've been able to work their way through in order to establish that, so that's where the challenge kind of comes in, and being able to have that communication. I think one of the most valuable tips that I've heard recently was about scheduling a weekly time for the couple to kind of sit and have a board meeting, so to speak.
Good. That's good. That's intentionality. That's being intentional with your conversation in your marriage.
Yeah.
And we think we're communicating. I love to say we do surface communication. We're talking about the dog and we're talking about the kids and practice, but rarely do we find ourselves sitting down and scheduling time to actually go deep and dig into what we actually need to be speaking about and talking about and working out as a team. So I love the way that you mentioned that. Yeah, and I think that's an amazing tip, to schedule a specific time to sit down and have that board meeting.
Absolutely. And do it at least on a monthly basis, if not weekly.
Yes.
At least if you once a month, and this is something that goes in harmony with what I've recommended for my clients and my audience as well, is to make sure that you've got a date set in your calendar, so that once a month you are reviewing your finances. You're going over your budget. You're looking at your projected budget for the next month. You're looking at your actual spend and what you had projected for the current month, so whereas your budget amount in harmony with what you actually spent, did you overspend or do you have some extra? And if you have some extra, what are you going to do with that money? Where will you put it? And those are the things, the conversations that we in love relationships need to be able to freely have. Now, I want to say one tip that I got from Steve Harvey, and it's funny because I already have kind of my own account set up in a similar way, but I'm solo now, so I've just got it, so that I can manage my income and my outflow, my expenses, and payments. But he talked about being able to have 4 accounts in a relationship: one for the man, one for the woman, one for the household, and then a savings account.
Yes.
So that you can build your long-term. Any other accounts you have for yourself outside of that, that's your business.
Right.
But those 4 essential accounts, in order to make sure that you've got a good structure to set it up. And that just makes so much sense to me. As I manage my account so that I've got an income account, a payment account, and then I've got a long-term and short-term savings account. And that's something that I think a lot of single women really need to pay attention to, because we're talking about, well, where are we putting our money when we get it? Yes. I've talked to some women who say, oh, well, I can't keep it in the account because if I see it's in there, I'm going to spend it. So they have kind of a secret savings account, right? Where they can have that money automatically drafted, or they can take it once a month and deposit it into that account, and they just don't look at it. Giving themselves an allowance is so essential.
It is. And I love what you do. I love what you do. We weren't I wasn't. I was raised in a single parent home where she wasn't taught, so she couldn't teach me,
Yeah.
so I've had to learn, just like growing in a relationship, or growing into, whatever business or anything that you're doing. Sometimes we hit road bumps and we have to learn the hard way. But
Right.
by your message and you educating people about these different methods that they can use, the different strategies that they can use, it is so important, because in the Black community, we just don't speak. We don't have the education, the financial literacy education. We
Right.
don't have that up front. We're
Right.
finding these things out along the way as we make some of these big financial mistakes. So I love you. I'm just, your message, your everything that you do by teaching us exactly what we need to do and what to look out for, especially when it comes to, managing ourselves and our relationships and our money. It's vital. It is
Thank
critical
you.
for the community.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. And my goal is to make this more comfortable for us so that we can have more conversations about it.
Mhm.
We talk about what we know. You know, Guys in the barbershop talk about sports or music,
Mhm.
because they know sports and music. Everybody.
Right.
But can we talk about some investing? Can we talk about some crypto? Can we
Mm.
talk about our insurance policies and how we're growing them, and what plans we have for that cash value that's accruing? you know, can we talk about our long-term savings, our future funding for retirement? Where do we plan on purchasing our next property?
Right.
Are we a part of a real estate investment group? So that we can have the empowerment of a community, working with us,
Yes.
so that we're able to grow forward and to close that wealth gap.
Was the gap.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely, because it's so essential. And
It's,
so,
it's not in the schools,
right. Yeah,
So
no,
it's very essential for us to be educating ourselves, finding people like you, implementing, your tools. So we are closing that gap, generationally. My daughter is reading Think and Grow Rich for Teens right now. And I'm
awesome.
every chapter, I'm like, okay, hey, what was that chapter
What is
about?
it? Right.
Break it down for me,
Absolutely.
So it's so important for us to
Absolutely. And
learn.
you know what? I'm so glad that you mentioned your daughter, because that's where it starts for us. It
Mm,
starts with what we're teaching our little girls.
yes.
It
Mm,
starts with the example that we're setting for them. And
exactly.
just because maybe we didn't receive that education doesn't mean that we can't get it and then pass it on to them.
Yes.
And that's exactly what you're doing, and setting a fine example and doing that for her. So I want to honor you and thank you so much for doing that,
Yeah.
because that is the example that will encourage another mother to say, you know what, well, she's doing it. Her daughter's reading what? I didn't even know that book existed. Yeah. So go wherever you need to go to Amazon, your local bookstore, purchase that book, and make sure that you've got it on your library, and that you do as well. Encourage your young daughter to
Yeah.
read that book so that she becomes educated. Read it with her, and
Yeah.
have those conversations first thing in the morning, on the way to school,
Right.
on the way to different activities, or when you're sitting around cooking dinner, or whatever activities you have at home, cleaning and so forth. It's we can make sure that this becomes a daily part of our activities, so that when we get into relationships, we don't lose our sight
Yeah.
financially. We don't lose our footing, or our grounding, in terms of the foundation that we need to be standing on, where our finances are concerned. And
Yeah.
so, in terms of communication, I know that you are a women's empowerment coach, and you are also a communications coach. How would you encourage a woman who is currently married, and she, her husband is the one who runs everything with the money? How would you encourage her to have that conversation with him? On both sides, whether it is, something that may be challenging, or, she might be pleasantly surprised and find that he, would love to have that conversation with her.
And you're right. She may be pleasantly surprised that he was, willing to have that conversation. A lot of times when we are trying to ask, or when we're trying to move forward with someone, with something, we forget to add value to the receiver. So, hey, honey, you know what? I love you to death. I appreciate everything that you're doing for the family. I love the way every month you sit down so diligently and, pay the bills, take care of all the bills. But what I'm noticing, honey, is that, sometimes I'm not in the loop with everything that's required. And what I like to do is to sit down, maybe with a couple hours with you, or maybe 1 hour with you. And that way I can learn some of the benefits of keeping track of our assets. So I know how to be able to, if you were ever out of town, or if you were ever away, or just if I was ever in that situation, I would be able to understand and do it myself too. So
Yeah.
always give that value, let them know how much
Yeah.
you appreciate what they're doing first, and then go into your ask, and talk about the benefit of your ask. And that, that right there will kind of give that kind of, even if it's a tough blow, which it shouldn't be a tough blow, especially something like this, something that's important, something that you're showing that you're trying to be a team player with. But that definitely lightens and shows them that you value what they're doing, and who they are in the relationship, and the acts of what they're doing. So
Yeah, absolutely. And just like what you're talking about, taking into consideration, bringing up those points about how it's going to be beneficial.
mm,
It doesn't always have to be, taking consideration of, well, what if he leaves me and I have nothing? Like the woman that you were talking about with the Toys for Tots. That
yeah,
happens,
yeah,
way more often than it ever should.
yes,
Way more often than we would hope for it to or expect that it would. But that doesn't always have to be the situation. There could be a situation where he falls ill.
yes,
And what if she doesn't know where the accounts are, and where the money is being paid to, and how to restructure those payments so that they have the cash flow, being maintained properly. Because of course, if he falls ill, if he's the breadwinner of the family, then maybe is there a support there for that income that would be lost?
yes,
Do they have an accidental death or disability insurance where they would be able to continue to be paid during, a time like that? Is there some resource, that they have available? Do they have credit cards
right,
available as a resource during emergencies? Because credit cards are an excellent resource for emergency funds, but then we also need to make sure that we've got cash available to pay that money back.
right.
And to make sure that we're maintaining our credit so that we don't now have one tragedy, use the funds that we need to for an emergency, but then create another issue because we're not able to pay back the way that we, promised to the company that we would,
Oh
you know.
yes. And you talk about, oh my goodness, talk about a mental health, stressor. If
Yeah.
that were to happen, and
Hmm.
when you mentioned, falling ill, my husband, about 4 years ago, was diagnosed with leukemia.
Oh, wow.
And of course, being in the military, we were blessed, right? So we didn't have
Yeah.
to worry about those bills. However, at times we would see some of those bills come to the house erroneously, and they were 100,000, they were 50,000, they were 70,000, 80,000. So understanding how important it is to be financially stable and smart.
Hmm.
If it were not for the military, we would have some bills that we'd probably still be taking care of today.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. And although he felt ill, he was still able to contribute as far as paying bills and different things like that. But
Hmm.
those things do happen. So as,
Absolutely.
as a woman, you have to understand that your knowledge will be your power, regardless of what's
Absolutely.
happening in your relationship and in your marriage. So ensuring that you're exerting the leadership that's within.
Yeah, absolutely. And that means taking responsibility for the role that we can play to be supportive in our families. Leadership is a support.
Mm,
Leadership is a guiding light, but it's also there to make sure that things are balanced, and that we're taking responsibility for caring,
yes.
for the families. And that's the role that we play. But it's if we just take this major area and dismiss it, then we're really just kind of saying, oh, well, whatever happens, happens. And sometimes, people will say that, well, I'll deal with it when we get to it. but we don't
Right.
have to put ourselves in that detrimental position,
Yes.
because what we don't pay attention to, we will pay for later.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And when
What
you're
we
not,
don't pay attention to, we'll pay for later.
yes, you're right. What
Yeah.
you're not paying attention to, you're going to pay for later. And if you're not investing now, you're going to pay for it later. And I know, people are living longer today. You
Yeah.
see a lot of old people in the grocery store still working because the pension is not enough.
Right.
And the financial decisions early weren't made, to where they were able to live and enjoy their later years. So
Yeah.
absolutely, if you're not paying for it now, you will pay for it later.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now, how are you working to guide these women? What women are coming to you with what challenges where they need to be guided and to be empowered and to learn communication? Who are you looking to work with?
Um, I love strong women who understand, that they do have leaders within.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really, only one type of woman, because if I'm speaking and communicating and pulling out the lioness within, some of these women,
Yeah,
some of them need that, just didn't realize that it was inside of them.
yeah.
I've coached a mother who had lost her parents not too long ago. I coached another woman who she was taking care of a sick parent, and it was kind of feeling like she had lost herself. Like, of course, she was
Mm-hmm.
living to take care of her sick parent. So, it's kind of a nice spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
just for, anyone who feels stuck in life, needs the motivation to be able to move forward. Maybe, a little introvert, not feeling as though she has the voice to where she can succeed in her business or succeed in the workplace. We deal with the glass ceiling and different things like that. So any woman that recognizes that she can make it happen.
So it sounds to me like you're also talking to that woman who, if she has an issue approaching her mate about this money situation, she might want to reach out to you.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You
She
know,
might want to say, you know what, I don't have the wherewithal. I don't want to argue with him. It's such I've dismissed it for so long. It's my husband handles all the money. That woman would be the one who would be able to reach out to you, take advantage of your program, and to have her confidence built up so that she would be able to now have that conversation with him, not be challenging, but to be supportive.
absolutely,
And to take a responsible
yeah.
leadership role in managing the family along with him, and explaining and expressing, because there are certain vocabulary that we need to use in that process. Sometimes when we speak from our emotions, it don't come out right.
No, it doesn't.
It
And
just don't come
that's
out right.
part. When,
Right.
when emotions go up, intelligence goes down.
Oh,
We're
jeez.
all over the place. Absolutely. And
Exactly.
you mentioned a great point. And actually, I just did I did an Instagram live on confidence the other day.
Mhm.
And I talked about 3 points. Confidence was setting your goals and accomplishing them,
Mhm.
monitoring your progress. But the last one was not being compliant all the time. A lot of times we give that power away because we're just compliant. We're just whatever. He's going to take care of it. He's going to do it. You don't have to be compliant all the time. And
Right.
we do, exercise your role and exercise that you are strong and that you have a play in the game. It allows you to build that confidence. So the next time around, you're showing up not only for your marriage, but you're showing up for, yourself as well. And that's
Absolutely.
where that confidence comes from.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's one thing that I have talked about, numerous times here as well. That and then there's that word, it just keeps coming up in my head. Responsibility, kind of like a little red flashing sign. Responsibility, responsibility. Because what we're doing when we just comply consistently, we're not taking responsibility.
No, not at all.
What we're doing when we always comply is we're allowing ourselves to fall into that rescue mode.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, I've spoken previously about female rescue fantasies. And one of my great mentors, Melody Hobson, is an amazing Black woman in finance with Ariel Investments. And yes, I'm giving her a plug. And she I love her. I love her. And so if you don't know who she is, look her up. She is absolutely fabulous. And I hope to meet her one day. So tell her that I told you about her. But she mentioned in one of her podcast interviews that Judy Collins, who is an American singer, had made the quote that women often give into these female rescue fantasies. And what we need to realize is that no one is coming. Girl, when I heard that, it hit me.
Right.
I mean, it took me about a week to like digest that.
Yes. Yes.
And when I saw the video, I had to pause it, and I just was like, "What you talking about?" Yes. Female rights, like no one is coming. What do you mean no one's coming? What about the knight in shining armor and the big white horse, or
Yes. That's good.
Come on. You got how many different princesses that we see in the animated movies, and I'm not even gonna mention the name of the creator of it. We constantly, I'm glad that their princesses are becoming more empowered.
Yes.
During this day and age, they're teaching our little girls that there's strength. You can be a princess and you can also be a warrior.
Yes.
And that is taking a leadership role. That is taking responsibility. Being able to move forward, to recognize that we don't have to sit back and wait for someone to rescue us. We can take responsibility for where we are, and we have to, because all the decisions that we made in our past got us to right here where we are right now.
Right. Absolutely.
We can also take responsibility for shifting our thinking, for resetting our mindset and moving forward into a new direction. So we be able to accomplish our goals and create the reality of our dreams.
Yes.
But we have to be able to get to a point where we can dream.
Oh, yes.
If we're constantly complying, we're not dreaming.
We're not dreaming. We're allowing someone else's dream and influence to let us, sway with their decisions. That you're pretty much being stepped on. And I always say, you train people and you teach people how to treat you. So if you're constantly being compliant, then you're going to constantly get treated like you need to be monitored, like you need to be told, or you need to stay over there. Absolutely not. Yes, it's time to go. And it's time to recognize that the leadership in you can do so much more than you're allowing it to take off right now. Let's go. Let's go.
Absolutely.
It's such a beautiful thing and a beautiful feeling as well, and it's not only being done for me, but it's being done. So I always told my Marines, whether they were male or female, someone is always watching you, whether it's your child. And, we're very influential in the military. We have to watch what we say, watch how we carry ourselves, watch how we act and we dress, certain things like that. But even on the outside, people see you walking down the streets, social media, people hear what you're saying. You are making an impact on someone and you may not even realize it. Right. So the more that you understand that, the power that you have within, the strength that you have, the capabilities that you have within yourself, the more you are going to influence those around you. And that impact and the influence can go years and miles wide and deep because of you standing up and speaking up and being yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we have to be very conscious of that, and so when we are thinking about, the love relationship that we maybe want to get into as single women, we have to take an opportunity to consider, what is our money going to look like? How are we going to manage our money in this situation? And it's not always looking at, well, how much income does he make? Because the thing that we don't want to do is to become completely dependent upon him. Yes. To provide for us. I always say to myself, I says, and to my girlfriends who I talk to and to my clients when we have conversations, it's just because we just talk, You know,
Yes.
and I love having those open conversations because it allows us to just share and to build each other up, to rebuild our confidence. And so in those conversations, I try to encourage and influence that, you know, we want to be cared for, but not need to be taken care of.
Yes. That's
We
good.
want to be cared for, but not need to be taken care of. You know, because it's when we give up that responsibility of taking care of ourselves that we now put ourselves in a position that we're not able to take care of anyone else.
Yes.
You
That
know,
is,
and we as women are caregivers.
yes. Yes,
You
we
know,
are.
if we are not taking care of ourselves, how in the world do we think we're going to be able to take care of anybody else? It's just not going to happen.
Pouring from an empty cup. It happens so much.
You said it. You said
We
it before I could get to it.
it happens so much. We're natural nurturers,
Yeah.
Natural listeners, everything, everything.
Yeah.
I have a problem with this myself. I put my family and everyone above my needs and my wants. And a lot of women are like that.
Yeah.
It's just, however, it's good that you do have a partner or a friend to be able to, talk to you on the outside. Even my husband, he's like, look, you are going to the mall and you're going to buy something for you, not for
That's
me,
awesome.
for you.
Yeah.
So it's just at times we have that difficulties because we're so used to taking care of everyone else, pouring into everyone else, and forgetting little old me back here. And next thing you know, yes, we're on E. So you're absolutely right. It happens.
And so that's one of the what I like to call green flags that we need to pay attention to. You know, when we're dating a man, is he going to look out for us caring for ourselves? You know, when we forget to do things, or if he sees that we're overdoing or overworking or, sacrificing our own in order to get things accomplished, is he going to kind of, help to balance us out, maybe recenter us and say, hey, babe, you need to take a minute to rest.
Yes.
Like you've been doing a whole lot and I don't want to see you fall out somewhere. Just, take a day, go to the spa. One woman says she handles the budget in her household because her husband just doesn't like dealing with any of the numbers and stuff. Well, she does the budget and then she goes to him and she tells him, she says, you have to change one thing. And so she said one month she went to him and the one thing that he changed was, he says, you have to put a spa arrangement in here for yourself. You need to go and get your nails done and a pedicure, so, take that out of, whatever fund and write that in on one of the lines. And she was like, really? Like, okay, I can do that. That's a great restructuring of the budget.
That's awesome.
But that's what we want to look for.
Yes. And looking for, and that's good that they're paying attention to that. It's so used to life is all over the place, schedules, work, COVID, homeschool. That is the beauty of balance in a relationship, is understanding what my spouse needs and being able to see and support that, and, during that time frame. And that's just going to build that love and that communication and that bond that much stronger. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So you shared a couple of steps with us, but I want to kind of highlight it so our ladies can take notes and move forward with these action steps. So what are those 3 steps that you would encourage them to take away from this conversation that they can actually put into action for building up their confidence, empowerment, as well as for opening up the dialogue to have conversation about money in their love relationships?
So I would say number 1 is to not be compliant. We mentioned that earlier. No one's saying go be rogue. It's about you. Go thug dizzle on that. No, not at all.
Right. Don't be challenging and difficult, girl. Like don't.
Right. All thug life on them.
Right.
However, the more that you show up and stand up for yourself, and you use, based off of your script, you can practice a script. And I the way that I put it earlier, by assuming value from your partner first, helps when you're trying to, get that ask. And then, so first thing is not being compliant, right? Those scripts. Another thing is your goals. When you have goals in life, whether they're financial, whether they're personal, professional, the more that you set your goals, writing them down, putting a deadline on them, right? Being able to strategize from A to Z. Okay, look, I'm going to start my business. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I know first thing I'm gonna Google, because I may not even know where to start. So I'm gonna Google. I'm gonna go to the website and start looking at some requirements. Okay, start LLC. Okay, write down. I'm gonna start my LLC. So setting your goals and coming up with your specific strategy to reach those goals. And the more that you reach those goals, the more that you're going to see that I can do it. And that is going to increase that confidence in you as well. So not being compliant, setting your goals, and monitoring your progress, monitoring where you are, and then being able to see where you are, a month later. I gave a talk to some women probably about a month and a half ago, and I was talking about self-care. And they were measuring where they were as far as taking care of themselves in certain arews. So I had them doing that every month. Pay attention to this area, whether it was health, whether it was I don't know, spending time with the family, something like that. But by putting in intentionality on it, I'm paying attention specifically to where I am and where I'm going. That is going to help to build my confidence even more. So monitoring their progress helps to build that confidence too. So pay attention to where you are, pay attention to where you're going, stop being compliant for everything, not everything, and also setting your goals and accomplishing your goals.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Absolutely. And so that they'll be able to put those three strategies or those three tips into practice. One thing that I have to offer for them is they can visit my website at marimorelife.com, and you can sign up to receive a free copy of my ebook, which is the Mindful Money Moment Journal. In that journal, we talk about both the 5 areas of mindset as well as the 5 areas of money management. And in that journal, there is a thought starter so that you will be able to, on each page, outline where you are as well as where you want to be. And what I've encouraged is that these women will be able to go back, just like you said, on a monthly basis, reprint it, lady, reprint it. Yes. And have a new one for each month so that you can see where you were in April versus May versus June. And you can see your own mindset shifting and growing as you change the narrative of your life and you're able to accomplish your goals moving forward. Yes. And so Tomina also has a coaching program that she is promoting for entrepreneurs. And tell us a little bit about that, Tomina, please.
Yeah, so what I do is teach entrepreneurs and coaches and even speakers how to use their voice. A lot of people aren't speaking effectively when it comes to social media or too scared to get on the stage and prepare a presentation. So I am teaching entrepreneurs, coaches, speakers how to create and deliver a powerful presentation that helps them to reach their audience. That's happening July 26th through the 30th. And you can get on the wait list. My website is www.coachtominaward. And you can check me out. And it's going to be a great time. Great time. I love teaching. I love training. I'm always on 10, my energy level. Anytime you're going to bring it, you got to bring it correctly. So it's going to be a good time. Good time.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with our audience. I know that some of these ladies will absolutely enjoy taking advantage of that opportunity to come in and get some guidance, not only for building up their confidence, but also building up their communication skills so they can talk more about their businesses and have those tough conversations, but in a beneficial way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for coming to share your insight and wisdom with us on this Wealthy Women, Love and Money. We're talking about making sure that we are focused in our love relationships. How we're managing our money helps us to not be in rescue mode, but take responsibility so that we can be leaders and supportive for the growth of ourselves as well as our families. And so I thank you again, Tomina, for sharing this information with us. It was absolutely amazing having you on the show. And we'll look forward to keeping in touch and having you back on another occasion. We'll talk to you again in the future.
Well, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so ladies, thank you so much for joining us as well. You know, you can go to www.marimorelife.com and take advantage of that Mindful Money Moment journal. This is the journal here on my on my right from the screen, but you'll be able to take advantage of that and to get started. This is the next step on your journey where you want to be able to refocus yourself and to figure out what is going to be the best next step for you in order to accomplish your goals and create, again, the reality of your dreams. I'm Kavette Minor Kane, your financial liberation expert with Marim Ward Life LLC, and thank you for joining me for another Wealthy Woman moment. You all have a wonderful evening. Take care.